This is F.D.Recovery, where we interview addicts and alcoholics.
Our aim is that through this podcast, we might help you on your journey of recovery.
Thank you for listening. Hello, this is F.D. Recovery. My name is Frank, your host. I have a guest host with us today. You want to introduce yourself?
This is John.
John, you may remember him from our last week's intention. And today's very special guest is...
Addict named Keith.
Keith.
So, Keith, how you been?
I've been doing good, man. Just, working a lot, and life has gotten crazy after I've gotten clean, and, Narcotics Anonymous has blessed me with a busy life, so I'm trying to juggle family life and the business and keeping up on my meeting attendance and all that fun stuff. So
good. Let's start off with your clean date.
Yeah, so my clean date's August 17th, 2017.
All right. For some of the people out there that can't do math because we're full-blown addicts, how many years is that?
7.5 years.
Hey, man, that's
right on.
It's a long time, dude. That's something to be proud of, right?
Yeah. Coming from, how I was using is every day, every day is a blessing. Every day is a miracle. Yeah. Yeah. I was actually on the way over here, and I was stopping to clean my work van, and I pulled up at the car wash there over off McKnight, and there was like 10 sheriffs there. And it felt really good to know that none of them knew me, None of them were pulling me aside and like, is this your vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all, they've all cycled through, and they're all new sheriffs. So none of them know who I am. That's a good thing.
Oh, that's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Well, typically we start off, give a little backstory. Where are you from?
Well, I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. How far do you want me to go into this, man? Just start going, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually we start off where we're from, and then we go into your first time using.
Okay. So just like an NA share. So.
Typically, we'll interrupt you with questions here and there, but
cool. Yeah, man. So I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm one of 7 kids. Got 5 sisters and 1 brother. Growing up, man, my dad left early on, and my mom was the only one taking care of us. She's taking care of 7 kids, and she was never there. She was always working, trying to keep the roof over our head and food in our bellies. And
a lot of children.
Yeah, yeah. My mom was busy. So yeah, man. Growing up, not in a great part, not a great area, And, I was always getting in trouble as a kid. I was diagnosed with severe ADHD. And like I said, man, I had no really parental guidance there. My dad wasn't around. My mom was always working. My sisters were running amok, right? So naturally, I was introduced to narcotics like really early on, right? I remember the first...
the age?
Yeah, I was about 12.
12?
I was about 12 years old. And I remember the first time I took a mind-altering substance. I remember absolutely hating the way I felt, right, naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember the very next day going back and doing the same fucking thing,
I can relate to that.
That's kind of where my relationship with drugs started. Ever since then, it's just been,
What was it? Do you remember? Was it weed or something
weed.
like that? Yeah.
It was weed, yeah. I remember we were in this freaking trap house, and my buddy pulls out a joint, and I hit it just a couple times, and I remember like sitting back on this. It was a mattress on the floor. It didn't even have like a box spring or anything, I remember sitting back, and the room started tilting and turning, and I was like, oh no,
Hey, weed when you're first starting, that was like, it reminds me a lot like lightweight shrooms.
Yeah,
like
for
when
sure.
you're really high or smoking some like really strong stuff, and you're just getting started. Ooh, that's I could never handle weed because of that, man.
Yeah.
A lot of people underestimate weed because I've been high on a multitude of drugs at a time. As soon as I smoked weed, it severely overpowered anything I was on. Don't get me wrong, I still felt the other stuff, and it made it a little bit different, but weed's no joke. That's why a lot of people, when they start going, well, it's just weed, I'm like, Yeah. Okay. You ever smoke some Keef? You know,
Yeah.
roll it and sprinkle it on there. Mm-hmm. You're in another stratosphere, dude.
Yeah.
There's no. That's why when people try to do that, well, I'm on weed maintenance. I'm like, totally. If that's your gig and you're not shooting crank or dope, by all means, harm reduction. Totally get it. But for this guy, I know that I can't fucking smoke no weed, dude.
No.
Not even close.
It's the gateway, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's the gateway. Yeah, so it kind of just, the room started spinning. I was freaking out. I was really young. And I ended up calling my mom. I called my mom for help, right? I was like, Mom, you need to come and get me.
Yeah.
I cannot ride my bike home. And she's like, she knew the get down by that time. She had, my older sisters and all that stuff. She's like, you're burnt.
Yeah.
Ride your bike home,
Figure it out.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. And, the next day I did the same thing. And, like I said, that's kind of where my relationship with drugs started. From there on, it was just a downhill slope, dude.
Yeah.
Every day, getting in trouble at school, getting suspended, them finding weed on me or me smelling like weed, and then that just prompted a search or whatever, and yeah.
And this is all still back in Florida, huh? How long did you live in Florida for?
Well, I kind of bounced around, man. Like, I started using drugs at 12, right? And I got way too much for my mom to handle, like, really fast. Earlier on, I mentioned that my dad had left young, and my mom ended up saying, hey, like, you need to go somewhere, and she coerced my dad into letting me come and live with him. And the woman that he married, she had 5 boys.
Wow.
So we naturally just, you know.
Yeah, you had a bunch of siblings.
Oh God, yeah. And they were wild too. They were wild, man. So like.
And this is located where?
This was in Middleburg, Florida.
Okay.
So just another part of Florida, not too far away from Jacksonville. And at that point, like my dad, it was my dad's way of saying that he was sorry for not being around for me growing up. He would buy us kegs and cigarettes and, just, it was, he was enabling us severely. And, shortly after that, like I got into his prescription medication. Xanax is the devil. Me and my dad had some physical altercations while I was, gone on Xanax.
Out, just fucking.
Oh my God.
Can't remember shit, bits and pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. Losing everything on my person, And then
it's either you lose everything or steal everything, dude.
Yes.
It's I've watched so many different phases of that because I used to love Klonopin and Xanax. And oh my God, dude, I'd wake up with a bunch of shit in my pocket, none of my own shit, it seemed like. Dude, that is a whole different beast. Yeah. Don't do it, listeners. If you're listening now, try to stay away from that shit. But man, that and my mom and sister love somas.
Yeah, the soma coma.
Oh my God. I mean, they would not remember full blocks of time.
Yep.
They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you were fucking up moving and I thought you were normal. They were a little off, but they said, don't remember any of it.
Gone.
That was the only thing I never tried. And I'm like, I did a little bit of it, but I was like, not to what they would take like 5 at a time. And I'm like, So from the Xanax, did you like fall in love, or was that kind of your first, or was it just something to do?
Man, it was just something to do, I was addicted to the lifestyle. I was addicted to the partying. I was addicted to the group of people that, surrounded the drug scene. And, I wasn't really at least, physically dependent on a substance until I got here to California. So
Cali will do that.
Yeah. Kind of how that looks like, man, is like again, right? Like I was going to high school at my dad's place, and the last straw, man, was for the school board was catching me fornicating with a girl in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I had weed on me and stuff. So that was like the camel, the straw that broke the camel's back, and they ended up kicking me out of every school in Florida, every public school in Florida.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Did they call it fornication? Were they like you were fornicating?
Yeah. That makes it sound so much
That's
worse.
Amazing.
Yeah. They were like
Fornication.
Fornication. Yeah.
That's like a fucking bad Red Hot Chili Peppers song, dude.
That's funny.
So, okay, you got busted and last straw. So how did you get out in California? Did you have family members here?
Yeah, so during the period that I was living with my dad, my mom ended up selling her place out there and moving to California. And then my dad was just, he was done with me. He washed his hands with me and shipped me back to my mom's house.
How old?
At this point, I was probably 16.
Okay.
I was probably 16 or something like that at that time.
Yeah. Playing volleyball with you pretty much.
Yeah,
That's
pretty much.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what happened to me because I did the same thing. I jumped back and forth because they're like, I don't fucking want this kid. Take him back. And so they're bouncing me back and forth. Totally get it, dude.
Ruining relationships and ruining marriages and just causing way too much stress than they wanted, right? Or needed, man, to be honest with you. So yeah, my dad shipped me out here to California and I met some kids. The first spot that I landed was in Secret Town, just right above Colfax. Shh. It's secret. And I met some kids up there, and
there's actually a town called Secret Town out here.
Yeah.
Wow, they kept it good because I have never fucking heard about it.
Yeah, you know,
it's called Secret Town for a reason.
All right, cool.
So yeah, I met some kids out there, and we were riding dirt bikes down at the train tracks, and I ended up getting into a motorcycle accident. I shattered my collarbones. And they took
both of them?
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, they took me to the hospital and they thought I broke my neck and stuff, but I ended up leaving that hospital with a bunch of methadone, a bunch of pain medication.
And you're still around, what, 16, 17?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's such a horrible age to be given that shit. Oh, man.
Instantly fell in love with the opiates.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
instantly.
Methadone is, I don't care what anyone says, dude, if that was my jam. That would mix with Klonopin and a little bit of meth. Dude, I don't mean to glorify, but this is reality. This is recovery. This is what we've been through. That was like my sweet spot. Mm-hmm. And anytime I ever have any reservations, I think of that moment and I'm like, oh, that's when I'm like, I need to go back there. Yeah. Of course, you play the tape through and you have enough recovery in your fucking head to talk yourself out of that. But man, it was like a chemist set with my brain, So I'm sorry, you brought up methadone and it fucking triggered me.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens with a lot of people. So yeah, I got the methadone, man, and I was obviously in pain. I couldn't move, right? So I was in like these. They gave me the option to be in a full chest cast, so basically zero upper body mobility, or be in these double slings that I could kind of. I was a little more mobile and a little more free, but with that option that I took caused more movement and pain, right? So I ended up just instantly abusing the prescription that I got and taking more than needed, and as soon as it ran out, I was playing fucking sheet karate, kicking, just beating my leg because I get restless legs when I'm kicking opiates. So it was gnarly, and
I used to get shock waves through my legs. It felt like no matter what I did, when I lay down, it shocked me, and it was just a miserable fuck. And then on top of fucking shitting yourself and throwing up, and it was weird. Every time I was kicking methadone or some sort of opiate, I never had the same symptoms. It was always a little different. I don't know why. But there was always sometimes I would just throw up, and sometimes I'd just shit myself. But the thing that was consistent, what you were talking about, those legs, dude.
Oh my God,
I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy, man.
Worst thing, dude.
So you're kicking, right? You mentioned that sheet karate. Mm-hmm. I'm very familiar. I think I got a black belt in it. I'm pretty sure.
Just black belted up.
So in this experience did you even wake up to the fact that you might be an addict, or you just kind of carried on business as usual?
No, man. No. I guess we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Yeah. But I didn't realize I was an addict. I didn't even know there was such a thing until this time around in Narcotics Anonymous. I never even had a concept of what an addict was, right? So I was just, I was free roaming essentially.
So there was. The reason why I ask, right, I don't want to jump too far ahead because it does lead to that, right, in the moment of where we take step one and we admitted we were powerless and, we're addicts and all that. But was there The reason why I ask is because sometimes people know right away, right? I didn't, but I've met people like, yeah, man, I fucking saw that behavior right from the gate, and I was just ride or die, and I knew what I didn't. I was in denial for fucking years. Like, I didn't realize. I thought I had everything under control. Some people had good enough self-awareness to where they were like, yeah, I knew right from the gate. Yeah. And I'm like, I didn't. You fucking, no. That's what kept me out there so long. Granted, I mean, my sponsor used till he was 50, you know, so I found out early, thankfully, but yeah, I didn't realize that, you know, but I do realize now, looking back then, there was a trauma. I didn't realize all the abuse, what it did. Can you say that there was anything you can trace back of what really caused this, or was it just kind of flinging it because... That's what personally I like to dig into, kind of like some of the trauma and because there's people out there that might be going through the same shit or still uncovering the same stuff. Can you relate that back to?
I mean, not really, not so much that I was aware of. You know, I mean, looking back on it in hindsight, yeah, I had trauma. You know, I had trauma, but at that point in my life, it was the cool thing to do. Okay, right, like that lifestyle. Like I said, I was more addicted to the lifestyle. You know, the friends that came along with it who were knuckleheads, right? Like I just felt right in line with that, you know, and
place to fit in,
yeah, pretty much, man.
I feel that. So coming from the sheet karate, so that was your first time experiencing kicking, right?
Yeah.
So how did that affect you, or was it any type of deterrent, or can you think back at that? You're just like I need. Is that when that drug seeking really started?
Yeah.
Okay.
For opiates. It was a specific drug, yeah. So, like, I was living in the apartments right here in Grass Valley when all this happened. And when I ran out of the methadone, I started kicking, and there were some dope fiends who lived right upstairs from us. And they, you know, I would get weed from them and stuff like that. And when I told them what was happening, they said, oh, we can fix that, you know. We can fix that. And then, so, you know, after that, I just went to street drugs, you know. Dilaudid and, you know, oxys and roxys and stuff like that. And, you know, shortly after that, I was introduced to the needle, man. And then it's all fucking downhill from there. So that progression from when you really started your drug of choice, because it's opiates that we kind of covered, right? At what age did you start the needle? I was under 18. I was probably 17 and a half, close to 18. That's really early. Yep. Wow. Okay. Yep. So that's when I fell in love. Really, when I always loved drugs, right? But when I think it might have been 22 or something like that, when I first got introduced to a needle. Yep. And that's when I completely fell in love. That's when it got way strange. Way strange. Shit got weird. Oh yeah. So from that point on, I mean, what did it look like for you? It looked like a lot of finding ways and means to get more. Okay. Right? And nothing was off the table. Right? I did whatever I had to do to get more. Man, my mom ended up, you know, I was still a kid at this time, right? So I was under my mom's roof, you know, and my mom was sleeping with her money in her pockets, dude. She'd sleep with jeans on with her money in her pockets, and I would sneak into her room with tweezers, bro. Like, I was following old ladies in the grocery store, and as soon as they turned away from their cart, I was in their purse instantly, you know, like, just, it was, dirtbaggery was on and cracking, you know, like, and that's just where my addiction took me, you know, and there's a lot of other stuff, like, that was just the start of the dirtbaggery, you know, like, shit got way worse. Man, at 17, holy shit, doing that, right? I mean, I definitely had my fair share, so there's definitely no judgment. But that, man, yeah, that's a lot of balls, dude. Yeah, I know. I was under cameras. I didn't care, you know. I was under, and as soon as I turned 18, that's when I started getting arrested and put on probation, and you know, I was introduced to law enforcement. Okay, so right when you're around the time you became an adult, huh? Yep. So you didn't experience any juvenile? Not really. No. Okay, so you managed to escape that. I think maybe the jumping around and moving probably got you protected in that sense. Yep. Because that'll do that. I do remember I should have been in much more trouble when I was a kid, but I was bouncing around so much that nothing ever really had a chance to catch up to me. Yep. And so when you turned 18, and what was your first case? Oh God, my first case.
Obviously, if it doesn't incriminate yourself or anybody else.
No. I'm sure it was some petty stuff, man.
Yeah.
You know, it was probably like a petty theft or, you know, one of the health and safety violations, having drug paraphernalia or needles on me, or, you know, it was something really petty. But that's just kind of where it started at, you know. And once they found that I was caught with drugs on me or a needle or something like that, like boom, probation, you know, drug testing, you know, all that stuff, and that's kind of where it started.
Yeah.
And none of that shit ever stopped me, dude. None of that shit ever stopped me. I was always looking for a way to come in and not test. I was always dirty. I was either absconding or, you know, it's just the criminal lifestyle, you know. Yeah, shit got weird.
So the one thing that I know I experienced was the same thing. Nothing could fucking stop me. No amount of threats, no amount of law enforcement, none of it. Right? That's one thing that I held true to the whole time. It's like, I'm gonna make this a career. Right? Some of my people before me, meaning my family members, kind of paved the way, right? And in the neighborhood, they paved the way. Going to prison and jail was kind of like, how do you say, like a rite of passage almost.
Yeah.
And it was a weird thing and I look at it now and realize how much that's true. Back then, it was just like it was normal. A pig doesn't realize it's living in shit until it's out of the pig pen. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where what I realized, like, wow, I really glorified some of this stuff, right? I was happy that I was going to jail sometimes. Yeah, it sucked, and hopefully you beat your case and you stress on it, blah, blah, blah. But there was a certain badge of honor going in and out. And never ratting, never doing this, never doing that, and always paper checking. And there was just like there's a whole little subculture that kind of like this weird false pride that happens in there. And it's just kind of a trip, you know? So going back to, you know, your experience, so was there any type of law enforcement like you could remember that had ever kind of gotten through to you, or you just, the whole time you're just fuck 'em?
Yeah, the only person who ever got through to me was Fred. My last relapse, it was Fred.
You know what? He's a solid dude. There's a lot of people that say the same thing.
The most solid dude. Yeah, he's so consistent with how solid he is.
Yeah.
You know, it was my first interaction with law enforcement it was more concern than authority. You know, how can we help you? You know, and yeah, that just changed my whole outlook, man.
Yeah, my experience with Fred has been the same, right? Also with Dave, right? Because Fred did that with Dave, and that's what kind of started Project Heart and that whole thing. And but I mean, that dude, he's such a good fucking dude, man.
Such a good fucking dude. That dude was at my wedding, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's him and Dave, right? They've always been a blessing in my life, right? If it wasn't for those two dudes right there, and then bringing me under the umbrella of Project Heart, I wouldn't be sober today.
Yeah.
They're 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. It's not 50%. It's not 40%. It's 100%. That, and also NA and AA. If those three things didn't exist, thankfully my sponsor goes to all of them for the most part. So I got
Dave, right?
Yeah, Dave, my sponsor.
Dave, yeah.
And getting him to do a Facebook post the other day was hilarious. Everybody jumped on, and they were like, "You finally got Dave on Facebook?"
Yeah.
You would think he has a Facebook because all he sends me is these videos all day, and I'm like, "Where do you get these? All people send them to me."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you might as well just have a Facebook because you're pretty much watching everything we're watching. Mm-hmm. So that first interaction, don't want to jump ahead, but how did that affect you?
Yeah, like I said, it changed my whole outlook on authority and how I felt about them. Really, you know. And it was just at that point, man, like my last relapse was my darkest and deepest, you know. And maybe I was just at a spot that I was willing to receive it more than before, because I've had plenty of,
Yeah.
I've had plenty of probation officers and judges and cops and, everyone give me the talk, hey, you're better than this. What are you doing with your fucking life, And I was just at my deepest, darkest moment, and Fred came and saw me when I was locked up. I was facing 8 years. They had just given me a state term offer of 7 years, 8 months, I think it was. And Fred came and knocking. He came and pulled me into a room and interviewed me about Nevada County Drug Court. It's like the last stop for people who have prison priors, that they feel like, they obviously, they hold a meeting on future or possible participants of Nevada County Drug Court. Mm-hmm. And so I guess they held a meeting about me and said, like, hey, this guy might have a chance, So Fred came and interviewed me and told me about drug court, and just the way that he presented himself and the questions that he was asking, I was picking up on, and it seemed like he cared more than, like, if you don't do this, we're going to fucking throw you away, And so I decided to give it a try.
There was some hope in it.
For sure, without a doubt.
That was one thing that I really struggled with until my last it seems like it's the last ones always, right? That obviously, that's how it works.
Yeah.
But there's something special about it, right? Because that last person that her name was Ann, and she's retired, and I got out of prison, right? I got transferred from Tracy back up to El Dorado because somehow the way they did math, year and year doesn't match each other. So I was pissed off, right? I'm like, what the fuck? I said, you ran it the same time.
Yeah.
You told me in court it was gonna. How do I have 30 more days to serve it here? A year is a year. It's right across from each other.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's just not. And then the guy told me some weird thing. He's like, I'm in transfer. I'm in Placerville, and he goes, that's just what the power at B's, the power that at B is what he said. This is what's going on. I said, all right, well, that's fair enough fucking answer.
Yeah.
And it's not court, so the dude couldn't change anything, but there I am bitching and complaining. But so I get sent back up, right? And what do? I do a removal, right? Before that, 2 days before the removal, I'm up in El Dorado. I'm living life, and probation came and visited me. Well, we're gonna have you in rehab. We have a spot for you at the Progress House. I'm like, yeah, awesome. I want to change. Fuck yeah.
Get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah, get me out of here. And there was some spiritual growth. Something was happening to me, and there was some sort of psychic change that, looking back then I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I was reading all the books. Something needed to change. I was reading self-help. I was reading a lot of stuff, right? And to kind of shorten this story up, I do the removal. It completely alters my path, right? They lock me down for the last 3 days, release me, and then I get rearrested on my way to go to Progress House, I thought. And then they arrest me at right where I was, right where we think it was like a mental health. They told me to meet them at mental health in South Lake, and they arrest me. They said, after watching the video, I can't put you housed with a bunch of other men after seeing what you did to this inmate. So there was possible more charges that were going to be thrown at me. Thankfully, the guy was like, the altercation that happened is he put hands on my little brother, blood brother. And then he called the cops on him. And back then that was a no-no.
Yeah.
Now it's like, dude, you make a mistake, you have to face your own consequences. But back then I couldn't face my brother, my blood brother, and say I was housed with this individual
and didn't handle it.
And didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Because back then I thought there was glory in that. And I'm glad I did it. Only because when that happened, right, they pulled out the wheelchair. It was a mess, right?
Damn,
it could have been
wheelchair was
involved?
involved?
Yeah, dude, it was because he lost consciousness at one point.
Yeah.
And it was a bad thing, right? So they had to put fear in God in me. But when it came down to it, they know we've known each other for years. Like, these are just two friends fighting, right? There's previous beef here. We're not pressing. The judge was like, DA's trying to push. He's like, no. The kid doesn't want to press charges. They're both done with it. That's it. Give him a violation. So they gave me 90, and I'm like, oh, thank God. So I dodged the bullet, but it spat me out in Auburn at core. So you see how these things that happen, these subtle things that happen, I didn't realize, like, fuck, man, I would have been out in Placerville, right? But I went out in Auburn. So that little flagship, kind of the little degree change, completely altered my destiny. And then I relapsed in Auburn, okay, which put me in Grass Valley. Without those steps, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't have my daughter today. I wouldn't have my wife today. And when you start looking at it like that, holy shit, I'm thinking I was a victim this whole time. Obviously making stupid choices, doing it to myself. But there's kind of a little victimhood in it where you're like, fuck, this happened again. Fuck, bullshit. They called the cops. You know, there's all those little things. But it was actually happening for me. Yep. There was a house fire in Auburn, right? I was at my complete low again, right? And then who was it? That PO. And I'm fucking hating law enforcement at this point, right? They throw me in. She throws me in the car and she just talks to me, right? And at that car ride changed my outlook on anything authority related, because she just leveled with me. She's just like, I just lost my partner, like, you know, her life partner for 20 plus years. And that floored me, right? And she started crying. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, this is a human being next to me.
Yes, bro.
And I was like, holy fuck. I mean, it brought tears to me, dude. It almost brings tears to me now, just thinking about the power. She pulled over and just, like, she went and grabbed me some cigarettes, and just the level of humanity that I was like, wow, it completely altered me. And right when she dropped me off, she gave me the biggest, authentic, genuine hug I've ever received from another human being. And I'm like, whoa, right? And I was like, holy fuck, right? So I say that story to relate to what you're talking about with Fred. Yep. It's those people that don't let that authority get to their head and keep that humanity intact, and it changes lives, dude. Yeah, bro. That sorry I went on and on about that, but that hit me in such a way, because I remember that car ride and I'll never forget it. It was life changing. It completely altered my psyche, you know. And
it makes me think of Fred.
Oh yeah,
it makes me think of Fred. Yeah.
Well, let's not talk about him like he's gone, all right? So let's... So coming from that whole Fred deal and actually starting to wake up, what did it look like? How did that process develop?
Into recovery?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, man. So drug court did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Plus they had a chunk of time over my head, right? So I was willing. Right. But, so yeah, they put me in local treatment facility, Serenity House. I was there for 90 days. Fred was coming to support me every week there. It was a combination of Fred and Melissa, because they were both the overseeing probation office for drug court at that time. And they would come in. I mean, I remember Fred coming to pick me up out of treatment while I was in treatment, like the middle of my stay or at the beginning of my stay. And he came and picked me up and took me shopping for clothes, right? Because when I got arrested, I had nothing, right?
Wow.
And so yeah, I mean, I got into treatment. I got out of treatment. I graduated treatment finally, and I went into an SLE, a clean and sober living environment, or a T house, right? And drug court mandated me to go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, right? And that's kind of where my journey with recovery starts.
What was your first meeting like?
It was the NA meeting here in Grass Valley, over right across the street from Memorial Baseball Park, right there.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that.
And it was probably cracking, you know what I mean? Just like it always was.
What time of year?
I can't. It was August.
Oh, August. Yeah, it was fucking nice and hot. Everyone's out. Everybody's all the girls are dressed.
Games at the baseball field, like. And it was probably cracking. There was probably 40 or 50 people in the meeting, and just like, it used to be a lot different than what it is today.
Big time. It was a bash.
Oh, straight up. There. Oh my God. People pulling up 7 deep in Honda Civics and traveling to conventions. And it was just like it was more like an event feeling to everything, right? A group of people, hey, you want to go to over here, and and it was just so much. And maybe I was on a pink cloud. Maybe my perception was different at that time.
No,
right?
you're 100% right. There's still elements of that, but there was something special about that memorial. That memorial, when we're at the bottom and then the top,
Yeah.
there was just something different. I believe that the moves is what really hindered, that at least that fellowship, and also COVID.
COVID,
back to back.
Yep, for sure.
Back to back. It was just like we lost that, and it's because we're a bunch of addicts and can't behave ourselves for the most part. We were pretty good, all things considered, because let's keep it real.
Comparingly,
Yeah, keep it real. We trapped out everywhere I lived. I trapped out and got evicted or kicked out. So we were doing, we were just a little too loud and too many cigarette butts. That was really but totally get it. But so you remember those dark ages of what is it, the Memorial Park across the street? Did you ever go to those meetings?
In the meetings in the park?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a couple of them. Yeah, luckily we weren't there for too long.
No, not too long.
Yeah, COVID really fucked us up.
Yep.
A lot of the old timers stopped coming, and it was just ran by a lot of newcomers, and there were still meetings going on during COVID, like Rebels, A lot of people, clung to Rebels, man, because, there was going to be a lot of people dying or recovering, which one, So a lot of people started attending Rebels, and that was a great thing.
Yeah, I was at the very first meeting of Rebels. It was in Liz's house, right in her house. It was only about 4 of us, and it wasn't even Rebels at that point. It was just the beginning of, hey, let's get together. It was funny too because I was in complete relapse mode, right? And Liz was like, dude, man, we need to get Frank right. And also she needed a meeting too. And she was just like, and she had some weird dream about, I won't get too far into it. Basically I was using, right? And she's like, man. So it was really the catalyst for her to like start this whole Rebels with the Cause thing. And then she came up with the name, then came up with this. And I was there through most of the beginning, right? And even had a couple meetings, and then we jumped around, or Twin Cities parking lot for a second. We're at that
Pops' barn.
Yeah, right there, dude. We were at, I think, Jason's Powers.
Justin.
Justin. Dude, we were all over the place, dude. And man, that was such a cool time. Yeah. And there was, bro, because it was like all political too, because COVID, that's what everybody did. And ever since then, everybody's been psycho with politics, and I choose to stay out of it, right? But and then they were just hating on everybody, and everybody was against each other, and I'm like, dude, I just need a meeting, bro. Yeah. And then I ended up going in jail during that whole time, completely sober
during COVID.
Oh yeah, because of I was. And everybody just assumed I was high. I get it. You see me on the blotter, totally get it. But I was completely sober, 100%. I was in a domestic dispute, and that's the reality. Is like, I had no more meetings, right? I had none of my service. I was completely involved in that, completely. And I had a lot of service-based recovery. Yeah. And I didn't realize that until that happened, right? Once it all stopped, overnight, literally. It all stopped overnight. Yeah. Right. So how did you make it to COVID? I don't want to make it all about COVID, but that was an interesting time, man, because a lot of your recovery was through that, and so was mine.
Yeah. So by that time in my recovery and in my life, right, like I had become a plumber, right? So I was one of the essential workers. So a lot of my time consisted of working and attending Rebels meetings, and Steve was my sponsor at that time, right? So he was socially distancing, and so it just looked like me attending meetings and working and just trying to make it through it. Yeah, I was attending all the park meetings, the barn meetings. When the Grass Valley Fellowship moved to Auburn for a bit there, they were holding that Rebels meeting in Auburn. And I was just trying to attend all of the Rebels meetings, in a sense, not Rebels with a Cause, but all the meetings that were going on during COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
And just trying to make it through it, man. Yeah.
The outlaws.
The outlaw meetings. Yeah.
It's funny, dude.
Yeah.
I remember people getting me into those conversations, and I'm like, dude, I don't care.
Yeah.
If people are meeting, like, this is a serious thing. Where I just had got out of jail too, bailed out. Thankfully, I had a support group around that time, and I'm like, no. People would try to pull me in on, well, it's not right. They're holding me. I'm like, I don't care, dude. I'm like, I'm going to those meetings.
Hell yeah.
I'm not. And I was linked up with the Tea House boys, and at that time they had to follow strict guidelines. They wouldn't allow their people to go, and there was this cloak and dagger, and I was taking people anyways because they were going regardless. So I'm not gonna make them walk. Yeah. So it was an interesting time, and it was a huge threat, not only on our obviously public safety, but like. Also, just our recovery, man.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of people with good recovery that fell off the wagon with like 20 plus years, dude. I knew multiple. That was a scary time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can definitely identify with that. I've seen a lot of people with a lot of time go out during COVID, just due to the fact that there was no meetings, no support system, you know. Mm-hmm. There was nowhere to go to keep you accountable, and you can talk about things. And luckily, virtually worldwide or online meetings, Zoom meetings came about, and that really, I know I've met so many people who got clean during that time on Zoom meetings,
mm-hmm.
you know, and thank God for that, man, because a lot of people needed Narcotics Anonymous at that time.
Yeah, I dug Zoom meetings. You could just fucking be at home.
On the
couch, chilling, dude. Just hanging out. Take a shower. You're still in your pajamas, dude. Just chilling, dude. That was a cool. But when you went back, you noticed the difference. You're like, oh, people.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God. And it never really stopped for me because I was essential, quote unquote, and not one day of work was missed for me. If anything, I was like, I had to work more because we lost people.
Yep.
Because it was such a strange time. People quit or they just didn't want to work, and so I was working even more hours. And during this time, I was transitioning to management too. So it was like, it never really stopped for me, right? And I could relate to that because I was essential, right?
Yeah.
And how did it feel to be essential?
It felt cool, man, because I was running around in my van. You know, there was a curfew and like all this. Yeah. It was crazy, dude. It was crazy. And I had this piece of paper that my company gave me that said, if you get pulled over and they're asking you fucking questions, you just show them this piece of paper. Dude.
I kept mine right in my door panel right there.
Dude, you're good, you know. So I was like, that did something for me. I felt fucking important. You know? And
everybody's shitting. Yeah. So I mean, there's nothing more.
The shit don't stop.
Literally.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was cool.
I watched your because you were a year ahead of me, and I think that you were just getting into. Because you got 7.5, you said?
Yeah.
So I got 6.5. So you're about a full year into it by the time I became a newcomer. And I do remember you first getting linked up with Navo and all them. And
yep.
And I remember that transition. And watching you grow from this angle was it was pretty cool, dude.
Yeah.
Because now you're rolling in that beautiful truck. You got employees. I mean, these are all gifts of recovery, man. Can you speak a little bit about how, because there's people out there that doesn't seem possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it still blows me away to this day, dude. It's just the gifts of Narcotics Anonymous, and it started out we were working for another company and I don't know, man, it just somehow blossomed into this really crazy, hectic, beautiful life that I've built today, man, with the help of the program, right? So, I get to employ people today, right? Just be careful what you wish for here in Narcotics Anonymous, dude.
It'll come true.
Yeah, it will, man. I feel like as addicts, the sky is the limit, right? Especially with our ingenuity, right? Mm-hmm. I did some elaborate shit for $10. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously.
You're right, dude.
Elaborate stuff, you know?
For a little bit of money,
Oh
too.
my God, dude. Oh my God. And so, like, you know, I just essentially just applied that imagination and that ingenuity, and especially the principles that I learned here in Narcotics Anonymous to my life today and to my business, right? So, like, my business is called Principled Plumbing. Yeah. And our motto is where honesty and integrity come first.
Shout out too, if you guys are listening, you guys need plumbing work done. You know, that's, if you want to hire someone in recovery that knows what he's doing, this is your guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most of my listeners know me, so they can just hit me up. Hey, and they probably know you too. So, but here's another a shout out, right? Because we want to be in support of not only local, but local person in recovery doing it, right? And I know one of your employees, I had him on here. For people that don't know, Jake, he's been on here. You guys know him, especially if you've been following him. And Jake's the man, dude.
Jake's the man.
I strong-armed that guy into coming on every Friday for alumni. And in the beginning, he's like, I don't want to fucking do this. What the hell, you know? He wasn't about it, but, you know, he's been showing up every single week. And I've watched just what that did, because I know what it did for me.
Yeah.
And what it continues to do for me. And watching him show up, I'm like, wow. And then watching him get linked up with you, hearing about how he's taken newcomers, watching it happen, is just, that's the reach this has. If you didn't get clean, you wouldn't have been able to provide that. The ripple effect just goes far beyond what we can see, especially in this pond of life. Like, there's, it's a... You're a little quiet over there. You got anything to say you want to throw in?
Oh, that's great. I'm the name of your business and everything, the principles and stuff, that's really got me thinking about how you rooted your recovery and then created a business that just reinforces it. That's really inspiring. Yeah. That you sort of made those shifts based on your own recovery, you know?
Yeah. People respect the motto, man. People love it, you know? And I'm an open book for everyone, my customers, my employees, you know. I'm an open book for everyone. Like, we were just in the paper. We were just in the union 2 days ago. Me and Sean, another business owner, Sean S.D., another business owner who is clean and sober and involved in the recovery community as well. They did an article about us taking out veterans on Collins Lake. Right? So we have boats, right? So we go out, we bring our boats out to the lake and put veterans on it. And
Vet for Rex, I think.
Yeah, Rec for Vets. Project Heart was there. Yeah, Project Heart set up and broke down and helped feed the veterans.
I think it was like on the second page, if I remember. It was kind of like, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was on Wednesday's paper. So if you guys are listening, you guys can, if you know somebody with old paper, I think I have some at my station too. So come by Robinson's, and we've got a couple extra of the old ones if you guys want to see that. You could also look it up on the Union too, union.com. But that's important, right?
So yeah, I mean, even to the community at like a very, very public level, right? Like, you know, Principled Plumbing, you know, we're in recovery, right? We're recovering drug addicts, and we apply principles to our business motto, and people just absolutely love it, right? Like, I'm not here to show up and sell you things you don't need. I'm here to educate you on what the issue is and give you options. You know, like, just, it's just really cool, man. Like, the honesty and the integrity that I get to apply to things where, like, you know, people probably have some bad experiences with people in the trades, you know, selling them shit that they don't need and stuff like that. And,
upselling.
Oh, for sure.
Seeing the weakness and kind of like a used car salesman.
Yeah.
You know? It's important, and that's inspiring, like you were saying, John, the whole aspect of bringing those principles into your business, because we do a weekly intention, which is spiritual principles. I understand how important this is. That's the only reason, right? 2 reasons to keep the pulse alive on this, and we can keep we got an audience. So I don't care how small it is, but people still want to hear it. You know what I mean? But the importance of it, importance that you practice gratitude, right? Importance that you do an inventory list and talk about the stuff that you're doing to people, good or bad. Right, those are all spiritual principles. Inventory is a spiritual principle, dude. Yeah. You know, I never thought of it like that. I didn't even know it could be spiritual. What? Yeah, I'm just counting my stuff. Or I'm just taking inventory of, I just thought it was a numerical thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that there was a spiritual side to it, to where like, wow, like I could use these things like forgiveness. I could use these things like trust and start building a life. But you putting that in a business is pretty badass, dude.
Yeah, it was the only way to go about it, man. Yeah. It was the only way to go about it. Like,
how did it feel when the name hit you?
Yeah, I don't know. It was just
because that's a pretty badass name.
Yeah, I feel like it is. Sometimes people get really confused with it. They like to spell it like principle, like a school principal.
Ah.
I'm like, no, it's principled like spiritual principles. And they're like, what? I'm like, you need to work a set of steps. Okay? I know you're normal.
Yeah.
But you need to, game up on this.
Yeah. Let me be your sponsor.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. It just came to fruition, man. And I don't know, like the drive that like I said, back to that ingenuity, man. Like I had the drive to do something different. I copped a resentment towards a company, just like a meeting has started, and I started my own company. Yeah, and it just kind of blossomed from there, man. Like I hire people in recovery, and we've been going on for like 2 years now. So obviously I'm doing something right. I it's paying my bills, it's paying my guys' bills, so. That's really all I can ask for, right? Yeah. So the name came, I liked it, and then I made the motto, and we just kind of went for it,
Yeah, because that just it'll get deeper throughout the years. 5 years from now, you'll be like, wow, man, this is really what I created. You're seeing it now, but it'll go deeper, right? You'll be here 10 years, and you'll be like, oh my God. Yep. And it'll get even better, right? Because when you base your life off of these core values, stuff like spiritual principles, I mean, there's only growth. Yeah. Because that's the way this like things like love, right? Things like trust, things like open-mindedness. Like these are those things that only expand your consciousness and also your spirituality. And having that as a basis of something as your work, it changes the game, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I'm trying to do in my daily life, right? Because I'm in customer service just like you, right? And I deal with hundreds of customers, right? Thankfully, it's a little less high, but it's high stakes when you're doing plumbing. Yeah. Right? People get shitty.
Oh, for sure. Literally. For sure. They'll try to sue you and everything,
Yeah, so having those aspects of recovery along with your work I think is commendable.
Yeah, really, really grateful for the life that the program has given me. And like you said, that ripple effect, it directly affects other people in my life, my family, the employees, they say I'm a really good boss, right? So like, I'm not trying to like one of my guys was sick the last 3 days. I didn't have to tell him that he had sick days available, right? Paid sick days.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I thought about it and I was like, And, deep down, I knew it was just the right thing to do. I said, hey, man, stay at home as long as you want. You got so many days of paid sick days available, right? Yeah. And so he collected on that. And it feels really good to be doing the right thing, not, being above reproach like Project Heart, right?
And that's a big deal. The listeners, that's nothing to shrug off. For people like us, I was always coming up on people. Yeah. Right. So as something as I know it sounds simple. Maybe if someone listens, go, well, duh. Yeah. We all get certain amount of hours. No, it's like, dude, coming from the lifestyle that we've been through, like we're dirt bags. Yeah. I have the potential, and it's just like a muscle. When you're in the gym, like, and you haven't worked out but you've been there before, the muscle memory comes back quick. Yep. Right. And it's the same thing as bad behaviors. You start participating in them again, and you're just like, you're right back and just as strong, right? And you're like, well, this came back pretty quick. And it's the same difference, man. It's muscle memory, even on fucking stuff like being scandalous. Like, I don't have to tell them. Yeah. Right? Once that pay period's done, legally, they can't really ask for it. Yep. And that's a big deal. That's a win for people like us. Because when we're trying to always game the system and it's always me, and let's see what I can get out of the situation, instead of being like, wow, now I'm choosing different lifestyle approaches. Like, yeah, that dirtbag stuff crosses the mind. But now it's like, okay, now I get to weigh my options. The dirtbag stuff comes up, but it's just like, now I get to choose the opposite, right? Because to be completely ignorant and to say there's nothing, I didn't even think about the bad, that's complete bullshit. It's complete bullshit. And the sooner, at least I've learned in recovery, I got to look at the bad just as like I have to look. That's the whole thing about inventory. What are my motives, right? And I had to learn that through this. Is my sponsor really? So what's your check your motives, dude?
Yeah.
I found myself talking to people for all the wrong reasons, right? And not being upfront about my motives. That was the thing, right? Because I was always misrepresenting it. Instead of just upfront, hey man, this will help me, this will help you, let's do it. Like, this is my intentions, tell me your intentions. Yep. And living that lifestyle is so much easier. And you get what you want either way, because you're honest. And most people, when they hear that, they go, okay, well, how can we make this work? You know, it's just like striking a deal. Like, what's the compromise here? And I thought I always had to be scandalous about it. Like, nobody's going to ever respect what I want, so I'm going to have to do it scandalously, right? So I got to this point in my recovery. It's like, as long as I'm transparent, I don't get it every single time, right? But for the most part, you come in there honest, and you keep coming there willing. Hey, okay, well, you don't want it this way. Well, let me bend it a little bit. Let me see what we can work with it. And most of the time, man, people are ready to play ball. Yep. And that's when the moment I realized, is like, wow, I don't have to be fucking scandalous just to get what I want. And that's big for me. So I wanted to let you, that little small comment you said, that's a big deal, because that's coming from the world we used to live. That was the first thought wrong, and I always did it. Yeah. Right. So, all right. Well, let's move on to. So now you're here in recovery. So how does, coming from that point of where you went from probation, saw the spark, you went through COVID, because that was just a couple years ago. So you went through that, you withheld that storm, and now we're on the other side of that. How is your recovery looking today?
Yeah, my recovery looks different throughout phases and stages of, my recovery journey, right? And currently, right now, I got a lot of stuff going on, right? And it all rolls back to, I can, relate it right back to, don't let the life that NA gave you get in the way of your NA life, right? So I keep that in the forefront of my mind, man, with like, no matter how busy I am with the business, with the family, with whatever I'm dealing with, I attend my home group. I have a sponsor that I'm actively working steps with, and I stay connected, man. That's the only, like, coming here to do a recovery podcast, right? Like, I have to stay busy, man. Like, recovery has to come first for me, dude, because if it doesn't, I'm right back at the turkey baster, like that, It's proof.
For the audience members that don't understand that reference, let's be glad that you will never have to know that. Yeah. But look it up online; you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, man, I just try to stay connected. I attend at least 2 meetings a week. I actively work my steps with my sponsor. My wife is in recovery. Like, we skipped over a lot of my story, man, but like, I ended up getting married to this woman, an amazing woman who has more clean time than I do, and
she's better at it than you too.
Oh, for sure.
That's what you want. That's what you want too.
Everyone who says like our names as a couple, like, hey, we're going to hang out with, they always say Rose and Keith.
Yeah.
Always.
You're bro.
I'm definitely on the back burner.
Yeah. It's like she rescued. You know, when people say I got a rescue, his name is Sparky.
Yes.
That's what
I am Sparky.
Same with my wife, dude. My wife has never done meth.
What?
Exactly. That was the first thing I cocked my head to the side and went, what? And had this scrunch in my eyes, like, huh?
Brings up some red flags for me. Oh, that's funny.
But that's that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
You got an awesome lady in your life. You're doing good. You got your kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, during my recovery, like when this last relapse, I got locked up for a bunch of felonies, and they made me sign over my rights to my kid. And like halfway through my recovery, the judge, they brought me in and they deemed me, responsible enough to take care of my kid full time. So they gave me full custodial rights, and I have my kid back, and that's a fucking that's a whole thing in itself, man. He's 13. He's just, he's my kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
And he's already doing better than you were at
for sure.
You said
dude.
12?
Oh yeah, dude. He's 13, bro. He's never, yeah.
It's good to see that though, that because that's another representation of that ripple effect.
Yeah.
And John, what else you got to throw out there? I really like to hear what you have to say on this.
Yeah, it's what I'm noticing is as you go through recovery and seeing someone, I'm 6 months clean. So what I'm saying is, as you've gone through recovery, it's like you've become someone who becomes a covering for others who want to become a part of recovery.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, what are the biggest lessons you've learned in recovery as far as what's really working for you? What's become a part of your way of being now?
So like, to the first part of your question, what's really working, what has worked for me historically is me walking my own path, me learning. So I'm a knucklehead, I'm hard-headed, so I have to learn the hard way, right? So that's been the most important gift that I've been given here in Narcotics Anonymous is the awareness that I have to learn the hard way, right? I don't get to recover or learn things from osmosis, right? I can't watch other people do it and apply it and it work, right? So my biggest motivating factor has always been pain, right? So that's the best way I learn, And what was your second question?
What are the key lessons or what's become a part of your way of being now?
Man, I think the easiest way to put it is like act right. Act right so you don't have this turmoil or this guilty consciousness bearing down on me, right? So like everything that I do nowadays is like Project Heart, man, it's above reproach, right? Like everything that I do is solid and based in values and morals, right? Yeah. So I don't have a fucking mess to clean up, and all these fucked up feelings coming,
Isn't that nice?
Oh my God. I don't have, I don't really have a lot of wreckage to clean up nowadays.
Nice.
Sometimes I fucking yell at the employees and stuff, and they're in recovery, So I make them.
Like, you're on my fourth, motherfucker.
Yeah, dude. I'll talk
my
to you
fourth step.
in a couple months, all right? But right away, I'm gonna say I'm sorry and make my amends, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm not fucking perfect, I have a crazy hectic life that I still act out on defects with.
Absolutely, that's part of life, man.
Yeah, but given that gift to be self-conscious and be self-aware.
Yeah, that progression piece, right? I like that question, John. Thank you. To add on to it, like for me, that whole aspect of what I've embodied, right, is just to stay out of my fucking way. Right? I didn't realize how much I was and that's what that kind of resonated when you said that. And I was like, oh yeah, like do the right thing. That means I got to stay out of my way, because if it was left up to me, I'm going to do the wrong thing most of the time. Yeah. That's just the reality. I don't get there now so fast, but don't get me wrong. If I get like a lack of sleep and too much caffeine and the wrong influences around me, watching stupid shit, maybe politics, whatever, I'm like, my brain is on. That's like I throw water on a motherboard and expect it to act properly. It's just not going to work, right? Yeah. But the biggest takeaway now is just like, I'm not in control, right? There's something higher than me right now. And that higher power piece is kind of the saving grace for me, right? I'm not your typical ascribing to any religion, right? But I do have a sense of spirituality that is rooted in a higher power. There's just no way around it. There's the way the higher power works for me is just the connection with life and other people around me, nature, the messages it sends me through other people, right? I can't tell. I sit here and listen to some of these people that I bring on here, and I'm like, by the end of it, I listen to it again at work, and I'm like, fuck, man. I'm so blessed to be in this unique position and just doing what I'm doing. And when I first initially got this idea, right, FD stands for flow directive, right? And the message just came to me when I was sitting there at work, and I'm like, flow directive, FD, right? Because the way I live my life so far in this recovery is I got to let something lead me, and it has to be a power greater than myself. And I do know when I'm there is when I'm in that flow state, when I feel that feel of just that no more stress, you know, it's there, it'll come back and it'll leave, blah, blah, blah. But when you're in that flow state, you're just like, holy shit, I'm right where I need to be, right? Because I'm always trying to astral project into the future, in the past. It's like that. Have you ever watched that Riddick with Vin Diesel, where that one guy, he's like astral projecting into different spots and whoops your ass? That's the way I feel constantly. With my spirit's just completely unsound, restless, irritable, and discontent. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, but now when I'm connected to that higher power, I'm no longer three steps ahead of myself or 3 steps back, right? And that's kind of how I relate it. That's the biggest takeaway so far, is just getting the fuck out of my own way. That's important. And so if you're listening to this, man, and you're in early recovery, or you're deep into recovery, just stay out of your own way. Let your higher power do it, man. There's a world out there that, like what you're saying, dude. Just that no good junkie stealing out of that lady's old women. That's dirtbag shit.
Look away for 1 second.
Yeah, I dare you.
Do it.
My mom did the same thing, dude. She locked all her belongings in her car and slept with the keys under her head because she could not trust her children. Yep. Because we were all 100% touched by the disease of addiction and alcoholism, and so was she. Right? My whole family, dude. My oldest brother's dead from a fentanyl overdose, right? And my sister has almost died twice, flatlined once. Get what I'm saying? Like this disease of addiction does not play. No. And dealing with this the rehab, right? You go in there and you get connected with these guys, and then they die, right? Because they're just like me, right? If Fetty was around when I was using,
gone.
I'd be dead.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. I used everything IV, and if I didn't have that, I was doing the turkey basting.
Yeah.
Because that was the closest high that got me to it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the closest thing. Or I ate it, right? But with heroin and different things like that, it's a little different. I mean, I just usually smoked it or shot it. But yeah. I was a garbage can. Yep. There's no way that there was fentanyl around and I went, oh, let's try it. Yeah. Been the end of me, dude. I would have been a Facebook post. That's the reality. A rest in peace post. And all the people that, and I see it now and it fucking hurts, right? Our brother that just died recently, he was connected to a woman I've known in recovery. I don't want to say any names, but it was fucking heartbreaking. I was going into that rehab and he's such a fucking cool dude, man.
Such a cool dude.
He was such a, and I'm not, there's a lot of things that people say because when people pass, they want to jump on that train. He was a good fucking dude. Man.
He was.
He was always full of life, always laughing, always had good shit to say, right? And I can't stress this enough. If you're listening, right, please give recovery a chance, man. How much time you got?
I was just silencing the vibration on the phone.
Okay. I just want to be. Time left. I want to be mindful of your time, but going back to that, how it's working in your recovery, right? Is for the listeners out there, I mean, what would be for somebody that's currently going through addiction, maybe thinking about maybe walking this path we're walking, what would you say to them?
Well, it's hard, right? So I can see it from both sides now, right? Like no one's gonna get clean that doesn't want it, right? The program isn't there for people who need it. It's for people who want it, you know. Like it says in the literature, you know, no amount of praying or crying over, you know, your family crying or praying or therapists or interventions or consequences, you know, none of that stuff. You know, it's a program for people who want it, you know. And if you want it, then, you know, go online and look up, if you're an alcoholic, look up the local AA schedule. If you're, you know, even if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, you can look up the local Narcotics Anonymous, right? Because we don't judge, you know. So I say if you want it, give it a try. You know, give it a year. You know, well, there's a saying in the rooms. It says, "Give it a year of your time, and if you don't like what we offer or what you get in that year of time, like your misery will be refunded out the door."
Yeah.
You know.
I listened to that, right, and with the statement you just said or the phrase, and I was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I was so, like, when people say shit like that, but it hits a different way now. It's like, once you walk this path and there's like that head nod where you're like, we know now. We're on that other end. We're like, it speaks to you. You're like, oh my God, you're fucking totally right. And I will add, I want to expand on that, is if even if you don't want it, try to get to a place where you do want it, man. Be open. We were talking to a fellow last night in the rehab, and he raised his hand and fucking was honest. It's like, once my money hits, I'm getting a lot of money, and I'm gonna get high. And I was like, well, I said, fuck, man, you're honest, right? Obviously, that sucks. Yeah. Right. And it was like wildfire. Everybody that gave a shit about the guy, it just spoke up, man. And they were bothered because they're fighting for their lives. And why, they're like, wow, we see so much in you, man, because he's a cool dude. He has a good attitude. And just like all of us, man, we're just fucking lost when we get there, especially in Serenity House. Like, we're fucking lost. But just to see that happen and see all those guys gather around him, and he's like, man, I'm about 80% sure. And I'm like, well, fuck, man, you got 20%, man. Yeah. And my best advice was to him, just be open. Just be open. Let information go in and let information go out. Let there be a translation or a transmission, better yet, and something might happen. By the time you get your money, hey, if it happens and you're gone, that's what you choose. But meanwhile, open up your mind and listen, because because something might shift your soul. I've been in those moments where like certain events, and it's like divine fucking intervention. Something that has to happen. And it could be that moment where you don't want it. You're saying, fuck you. But you had a slip. You open that door. It's like, when you're tweaking and someone knocks and you have that chain, you just open it a little. Just enough to peek. But that just might be enough to let that light in and shed light on what's going on. And just a sliver of fucking hope just might enter. And you could be like, holy shit, all of a sudden I want this, because it's just that one person, right? Yeah. One message. I mean, for me, it was like somebody came into recovery, which kind of altered me. He was like, I'm not big on Jesus or anything like that. Nothing that's religious. Back then I hated it, but today I'm impartial. I'm like, I love that it's working for you, and I want you to express to me what your beliefs are. I'm 100% on board. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what's in your heart. I'm totally down for it. I love that, right? I'm about that. Somebody comes on here and says how much Jesus or how much Allah or how much this. I mean, we're in a Western culture, so it's mostly just Jesus, right? But the reality is I'm all for it, right? But a guy came in there. His name was Toby, and he's just like, Toby. I'm sitting there and I'm saying, fuck this, fuck God. And I'm literally saying that. I can't tell you how many times I said, fuck God, right? And it was mostly just for the shock factor, trying to be cool, right? But I also actually felt that way. I'm like, fuck God, what the fuck? I'm condemned. Yeah. It's all I'm a recovering Catholic as well as being a recovering addict. So there's a lot that comes to it, right? Comes with it. And he's just like, man, I see the devil. He got a hold of you. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? But then I had to sit back and think about it later. And I'm like, man, maybe I don't see it as the devil, but like there's definitely something at dark that's at work here. And I had to come to those conclusions. It's like that messenger that I fucking hate, and especially at that time, I don't hate it now, but at that time I'm like, fuck you. That was the only thing on my brain was fuck you, devil on me. That's that bullshit you guys always preach, blah blah blah. But over time, a couple weeks, I'm like, wow, he's right. Oh. And then fast forward a couple months before it, I'm out of the tea house now, right? And I'm bombing down Hughes Road right there by Shell. My tire pops. That sends me fucking flying, dude. And I ate shit, bro. I'm surprised nothing broke besides my phone. Like I got up from that. I was hurting. Don't get me wrong. There was bumps and bruises. And he goes, damn. And there he is in the truck, Toby. And he goes, holy fuck, I saw the whole thing. And I'm like, oh. And I'm limping and grabbing my bike. My bike's destroyed. The front tire is. And he's all, throw it in the back. And he takes me on. And that point on, it was just like, wow. And it kind of clicked. And just that's the way God works for me in my life. It's like this person that sent me that message. And he's just so full of help, right? And the contempt that I had for him in that room, and obviously I outgrew some of that, but that right there, that act of kindness completely disappeared. Anything negative that I had to think about that, but that opened me up, and it made me ask my sponsor, hey, will you sponsor me, right? Because he was a Jesus freak too, at least so I thought. I hated anything that was anything religion, right? But it opened me up. Right, just those. I was open enough to say, "Fuck you guys," and that's what did it. Even if you got to open enough just to say "fuck you," because most people just stay quiet, won't open up at all. Yeah. But say what's on your mind. Speak up. Say you need to get high. I want to get fucking high. When money hits, I'm out of here. Because something just might come along and change your mind. Because now you're open. Now you're honest. And what happens with open honesty, you just open up the circuits for not only information to leave, but also information to come in. That's why it's so important. Even if it's the worst shit, you raise your hand in a meeting, you go, man, I want to get high right now. It takes the power away. And also, the way what John was talking about yesterday is, when you have thoughts and your mind made up and you have a desire, everything will always line up to meet those desires. When every time I wanted to get high, it always came to fruition, and everything else, all the challenges I rose to the occasion to get that needles. Oh, I got to find the needle now. Oh, well, I'm not going to get dope without the needle. There's just no point because I'm not, the whole rigmarole we do, and just executing the mission. Right. Mm-hmm. And so, it'll always, so once you start opening up and you start, the law of attraction will start, oh wow, he spoke about this, now I'm going to bring people, situations, and something just might, that's why it's important, man. Even if it's the worst shit you got to bring it up. Say you want to get high, because that's, especially in rehab, people were always afraid to keep it real in rehab, because then they'd be out in the tea house and then they'd be fucked up within moments. Yep. Because they hid it, right?
Yeah, the rehabs are a place for, exploration, They hold those groups in there, to find out what you're all about, and so what they say is the rehab is discovery, and then whenever you get out of rehab, it's recovery, right? Because you get to discover yourself in there, you get to shine that flashlight in all those dark places in your mind, and it's really a stomping ground for trying to get those those demons out of you before you hit the streets, dude. Because statistically, as soon as you hit the street, a lot of people get loaded.
Yeah, that is the reality we're facing here, man, and that's why we even have this podcast synced up to them. I don't know how many people have jumped on and listened to it. Right?
Oh, at the rehab?
Yeah, man. This is what this is for. We're just trying to pay it forward, man. Yeah. We're just trying to put some good shit out there, and it keeps us sober too, right? It keeps us. We're here on a Saturday. Yeah, we could be hanging out with the family, and we'll go do that after this. But It's like, this is important shit, man. Because giving back to others what was so freely given to us, for today. That's my mission, right? And that's what you're doing in your way. I do it in my way at my work too. I employ a bunch of people in recovery. Doesn't always work out. Yeah. But you give people that chance, because I'm a firm believer in, like, because I've hired and fired so many people in recovery, and they've made wrong choices and made me look bad, right? But I keep it up front, giving this person a chance. The owners understand where I'm at in my life. We got to give these people a chance, because what happens is they don't reform and they cause more damage to the community. So I'm not necessarily every person I hire is from recovery, but there's a good amount of them, man, because that's the only people I know. Yeah. Right? The people that come in for interviews that aren't in recovery, they're pretty wishy-washy, right? They're either, I'm drinking, or they'll try to call and change the interview time, and I'm like, dude, this is You can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, this is how employment's going to go. The way you do one thing is how you do most things. I promise you that. So you're calling, oh, I'm sick. Can we reschedule it for tomorrow? It's like, dude, it's like, and there's a lot of that out there. Like a ton of it, most of it. We go through hundreds of app in a couple days, dude,
Jesus.
from Indeed, right? Because we get flooded. We get 30 or 40 applications at one time when they send the message. And throughout the week, we'll have hundreds, right? Dang. And that's no lie, dude. Right? It depends on how long we're looking for it. Sometimes it's quick and we hire them fast, but there's been stacks, dude. Stacks of just because there's so many people that apply. And especially during COVID,
yeah,
everybody was on unemployment. And in order to keep unemployment, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you have to actually show that you're actively looking for work. So we had a whole bunch of people and we were inundated by it, right? People in like 3 or 4 towns over were trying to get a job. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, dude. We start at 18 an hour.
He's
There's
on
no
unemployment.
way.
This is one of those apps. He's trying to keep his unemployment right now.
Yeah, so it was a struggle. Like it's being in charge of a business or being numbers, all that, man. But having that core value, right, and bring it back to what you're trying to achieve is, there's a lot of respect in my heart for what you're doing, really, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, and usually we'll be closing it up here shortly. But do you want to add anything?
I'm curious. I have one more question if I could ask. If you will, like your higher power.
Yeah, so
that's a good one.
That's a good one, yeah. So historically, I've always I was raised up in a southern state, right? So, we believed in Jesus Christ and I still do, it's just what I was taught as really early on, and every time I would get arrested or I got myself in some real trouble,
Hot
boom,
water.
hit the knees,
The vending machine.
Please get me out of this one, you know what I mean? Please. And so that's kind of, I've been practicing, I've been praying a lot at nighttime and stuff like that. But also what I've found is that it's also always ever changing and morphing all the time, So after a few years, I got clean. I started getting some hobbies and stuff like that. And a big part of what my higher power is, right? Like a power greater than myself, is nature. It's outdoors, right? Like I feel closest to my higher power when I launched the boat at 5 a.m. and I'm out on a mirror ass lake and I see the sunrise or something like that, or the way I'm driving down the street today and I'm looking around and everything is so green and vibrant, and it's just outdoors really does it for me. Yeah. Most definitely.
That was going to be my next question. I usually like wrapping it up with some of the spiritual things that are working for you right now or spiritual things that you've seen in your life lately. But I will expand on that and say, so for people that struggle with that spirituality, what's the best tool you find to help you kind of make that breakthrough? Because I guess an example would be like sometimes in early recovery, I would have a hard time praying, right?
Yeah. And
the thing that helped me was my sponsor told me, I use God for convenience.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So use God for convenience, right? That's something like would be an example. But for you, what helps you get to that point for, say, somebody struggling with the higher power out there?
So try to grasp onto something so in the program they say that anything can be your higher power, right? And how I kind of basically started to get the grasp of it when I was still early on in recovery is how it was explained to me is that a power greater than yourself. That's kind of where I went first, right? So a power greater than yourself is anything that can take you outside of the way that you're thinking and the way that you're acting about some situation or something happening in your life, right? Whether that be, for me, it was a song, it was music, right? Like if I'm in a fucked up mood and I'm stuck and I can't get out of it, right? And like one of my favorite songs comes on, you know, and I'm sitting there fucking vibing to it, right? And
changes your emotional
boom, it takes me out of what I was in, right? So boom, that simple, that's a power greater than yourself.
Music, that's a good tool.
Yep, it always has been for me. And then knowing that your higher power is ever evolving and changing, right? So you can pick something really simple at one point of your recovery, and then it can always change. You know, it's always evolving and always changing. So just knowing that and giving yourself, you know, you don't have to stay so rigid with it. You know, just know that it can change at any given time, 7, 10, 12 times a day, you know.
Nice. I like that a lot. All right. Well, we're reaching the end. Is there anything any of you guys want to add before we leave?
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I hope I said something that someone heard that makes them think twice about staying, getting here, you know, maybe introduce some gratitude into your day, you know, something like that. So I'm grateful for being here. So
I appreciate that. And we're grateful to have you. I mean, it was funny too because Jake told me months ago. He's like, yeah, my sponsor, well, my boss, because you're a sponsor too, right?
No, I'm not.
No. Okay, then I must have have my wires crossed on there. But maybe he just said my boss. He's like, my boss was wondering why you don't have him on the show. And I was like, you know what? I didn't even think of that. I said, I'll ask him eventually. And then right when I seen you guys in, it clicked on me, that same conversation that Jake and I had. So, this is my perfect chance. Yep. Right? So I'm glad you said yes, right? Because I don't have, right now we've been on, usually we have Eric here and also Dave, but they couldn't make it. They were at an important move for actually Fred's wife. So it was kind of like, you know, it had to happen. So. Yeah. They did plan on being here. They send their regards. You know, they wanted to be here. But thank you for showing up and being part of my recovery. And also, John, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, thank you for doing the work and for being a model and an inspiration for those of us who are at that place where we're going, what is my life? What could my life 6, 7 years or even sooner, obviously, look like if I stay with this? And thank you for being that light and that hope and doing the work.
Thank you.
It's appreciated.
I appreciate that.
Oh, cool. All right. For you listeners out there, thank you guys for tuning in. This is F.D. Recovery. And don't be shy. Throw some comments in the comment box below. And also tune in every Monday for our weekly intention. We break down spiritual principles on this road of recovery. Thank you again, Keith. Thank you guys for showing up. This is F.D. Recovery. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to F.D. Recovery. A reminder, be kind to yourself on this journey of recovery. Also, call your sponsor, get connected to local support groups, and for one day at a time, stay clean and sober.